Hermit Crab Tank Setup, the secret ingredient that keeps them alive for decades. Setting up a hermit crab tank looks simple. Sand, shells, maybe a little water, right? But what if I told you there's one secret ingredient that decides whether your hermit crab thrives or dies, and most new owners never even hear about it? Keep watching, because in a few minutes I'll reveal the tiny detail that turns a basic tank into a real tropical paradise. Now, since you already own hermit crabs, you've probably realized that they're not just pets. They're tiny armored comedians with attitude. They strut around like they pay rent, steal shells like professional burglars, and sometimes stare at you like you're the one living in their tank. But behind all that charm is a surprisingly delicate creature that depends completely on how you build its home. A proper setup doesn't just make your crabs happy. It keeps them alive for decades. Let's start with a fun fact that might blow your mind. Did you know hermit crabs don't actually own their shells? They're professional squatters, borrowing, trading, and occasionally wrestling for the best property on the beach. But here's the twist. They sometimes hold what scientists call shell exchange parties, where multiple crabs line up and swap shells in perfect sequence. That's teamwork in its weirdest, most fascinating form. We'll come back to that later, but keep it in mind. It's one of nature's strangest real estate stories. The base of your hermit crab's tank isn't just sand for looks, it's their entire universe. They dig, sleep, molt, and sometimes disappear for weeks underneath it. When they're molting, they're completely defenseless, so having the right depth is a matter of life and death. Your sand layer should be at least 6 inches deep, enough for your largest crab to bury itself completely. Anything shallower is like forcing someone to sleep under a table instead of a bed. The perfect blend is half sand and half coconut fiber. The sand provides stability while the coconut fiber traps moisture. Together they create a soft but sturdy texture your crabs can tunnel through without collapse. When you grab a handful, it should clump lightly but not drip water. Too dry and it caves in, too wet and it turns into sludge. Get that balance right and you've just given your crabs their version of a luxury underground condo. During molting, crabs shed their old exoskeleton and grow a new one, which takes energy and privacy. They might stay buried for weeks or even months. Don't dig them up. They're not lost, just reinventing themselves. When they finally resurface, they'll look fresh, shiny, and probably ready to show off their new outfit. Hermit crabs might look armored and invincible, but deep down they're tropical creatures that crave warmth and humidity. To keep them comfortable, maintain your tank's temperature between 75 and 85 degrees Celsius equivalent. When it gets too cold, your crabs slow down and stop eating. When it's too hot, they'll bury themselves to escape the heat. A heater is your best friend. Room temperature or a basic bulb just won't cut it. Light bulbs dry the air, which can make your tank feel like a desert instead of a beach. Aim for a setup that feels like a sunny, breezy shore. When the temperature is just right, your crabs will roam freely, eat well, and interact naturally, instead of hiding in their shells. Even though they live on land, hermit crabs are ocean-born. They need both fresh water and salt water available at all times. Fresh water keeps them hydrated, while salt water helps clean their shells and regulate internal balance. Use dechlorinated or distilled water, and only marine-grade aquarium salt, never table salt. Make sure each dish is deep enough for a soak, but shallow enough for safe climbing. Add small stones for grip. After a refreshing dip, your hermit crabs will strut around like beachgoers returning from a luxury spa. All right, time to return to that earlier trivia question about shell parties. Remember how I said crabs sometimes line up and swap shells? That's not a myth, it's real science. Researchers have observed crabs forming shell chains, where one crab moves into a larger shell, another immediately takes the old one, and the process continues like a tiny moving line of homeowners. It's one of the most fascinating examples of animal cooperation you'll ever see. That's why your tank should always have spare shells, at least 3 or 4 extras per crab. Offer different shapes and sizes because every crab has personal preferences. Some like round openings, others prefer oval ones, and never use painted shells. They might look cute, but paint chips can release toxins. Stick to natural shells. They're safer and much more stylish. Watching your crabs inspect and swap shells is like seeing a live episode of Crab Property Brothers. Let's be honest, hermit crabs are miniature gymnasts disguised as armored beach wanderers. When night falls, your tank becomes a full-blown obstacle course. They climb, dig, explore, and sometimes topple the decorations you carefully arranged. Don't get mad, that that chaos isn't destruction, it's pure happiness. When hermit crabs are active, it means they're thriving. Boredom, on the other hand, is their silent enemy. A bored crab becomes stressed, and stress can shorten its lifespan. To keep them happy, give them a stimulating playground. Add climbing branches, chala wood, coral, and even artificial plants. These mimic their natural coastal environment and encourage natural behaviors like climbing and digging. Think of it as designing a miniature jungle gym for your shelled athletes. When they start scaling walls, rearranging decor, or burying food in mysterious places, it's not rebellion, it's confidence. They're not plotting an escape, they're showing off their personality. One crab keeper once found her smallest crab missing for days, only to see it reappear wearing the largest shell in the tank. It sparked a chain reaction of shell swaps that left every crab in new housing. The moral? Always provide plenty of spare shells, or your crabs will take real estate matters into their own claws. Another crab owner panicked after spotting tiny bugs crawling around her setup, until she learned they were isopods, harmless cleanup crews that eat leftover food and waste. Once she let them stay, the tank's humidity stabilized, the sand stayed cleaner, and her crabs became more active. In the last video, I asked you what happens when your hermit crab sees light it shouldn't. And here's the surprising truth. Hermit crabs actually can see certain colors better than others, especially blue and green hues that mimic moonlight. Bright white or red lights can confuse their natural rhythm, making them restless or even stressed. That's why many keepers use soft, dim moonlight bulbs at night. It keeps your crabs calm, active, and perfectly in sync with their coastal instincts. Hermit crabs can live up to 30 years with proper care. They even use their large claw as a door to seal their shell, locking in moisture and safety. So when you see your crab calmly exploring in daylight, know this: it trusts you and it feels truly at home. Building a proper hermit crab tank setup isn't just about looks, it's about recreating a living, breathing beach. Every grain of sand, every drop of water, every branch, and every shell plays a role. Once your crabs start swapping shells, climbing walls, and greeting you at feeding time, you'll realize you didn't just build a tank, you built a world. And now for the secret I teased at the start. The real key to a thriving hermit crab tank is humidity. Hermit crabs don't just like moist air, they breathe through modified gills. When humidity drops below 70%, they start to suffocate slowly without showing clear signs right away. You can have deep sand, fresh water, and beautiful shells, but without humidity, your setup isn't a paradise, it's a countdown. Keep it warm, moist, and stable, and your crabs won't just survive, they'll thrive for decades. So go check that hygrometer, mist that tank, and give your little ocean explorers the tropical life they deserve. Because once you master humidity, you're not just a pet owner, you're the proud caretaker of a miniature seaside kingdom. For our next one, here's a question that'll blow your mind. How does an octopus recognize faces without a single bone or eyelid? Some owners swear their dwarf octopus reacts differently to certain people, almost like it remembers who's friend or stranger. Could these tiny geniuses actually form memories of us? In the next video, we'll uncover the truth behind octopus intelligence and explore whether your ocean buddy really knows who you are. Hit that subscribe button and find out how deep an octopus's memory truly goes.